Commander Zektar floated in his medical pod, the healing fluid keeping his shattered body alive, his 3 remaining eyes focused on the recording device hovering before him. The Galactic Council needed to hear this. They needed to understand what happened to the greatest military force in known space. My name is Zektar, former fleet commander of the Hegemony's 3rd Conquest Armada. I am the sole survivor of what you call the Earth Campaign. What I tell you now will sound impossible, but every word is truth verified by my neural implants. The recording light blinked steadily as Zektar began his account. His voice carried the weight of trauma that no amount of medical treatment could heal. 6 months ago, our scouts discovered a small blue planet in what humans call the Sol system. The inhabitants had barely achieved space travel. Their most advanced weapons were crude chemical explosives and primitive nuclear devices. Our analysts laughed when they saw the intelligence reports. Zektar's voice grew bitter. We had conquered 400 worlds. Species with energy weapons, quantum shields, and dimensional warfare capabilities had fallen before us. These humans seemed like nothing more than an amusing diversion. The fluid around him bubbled as life support systems adjusted to his elevated stress levels. The Hegemony High Command decided Earth would be perfect for our newest recruits. A training exercise. We sent 12,000 ships carrying 2 million troops. Enough firepower to glass a continent. His remaining hand clenched into a fist. I remember the briefing perfectly. Admiral Vexthul stood before the assembled commanders, pointing at holographic displays of Earth's pathetic defenses. Gentle subjugation only, he ordered. We need the humans alive for the slave markets. Their physical adaptability makes them valuable. The memory brought fresh pain to Zektar's expression. We approached Earth openly, broadcasting our surrender demands in their primitive languages. Standard protocol. Most species capitulated immediately when they saw our fleet. The smart ones anyway. But these humans... Zektar paused, his breathing becoming labored. They responded with a single transmission. Just 2 words in their dominant language. Come on. The commander's laugh was hollow and bitter. We thought it was a translation error. Surely they meant we surrender or we submit. Our linguists confirmed it. The humans had looked at the largest invasion fleet in galactic history and essentially told us to try our best. Admiral Vexthul was amused. He ordered the first wave to begin orbital bombardment of military installations only. Precision strikes to demonstrate our power. Surely after seeing a few of their weapons turn to ash, they would see reason. Zektar's eyes grew distant, remembering. The first bombardment began at what they called dawn over their largest continent. 50 ships targeted their missile silos, airbases, and naval facilities. Perfect accuracy. We destroyed exactly what we intended to destroy. Then something impossible happened. As our energy beams struck their facilities, massive explosions erupted from underground. Explosions far more powerful than anything in our intelligence reports. We had unknowingly triggered hidden defensive systems that turned our own attacks into devastating chain reactions. The medical pod's readings spiked as Zektar's vital signs became erratic. The humans had prepared for this moment. Every military installation was a trap. They had buried massive charges beneath their own bases and used our precision strikes to detonate them simultaneously. In seconds, they turned their entire planet into a weapon. But that was just the beginning, Zektar continued, his voice growing quieter. As our ships tried to analyze what had happened, the real attack began. The humans launched their response. He gestured weakly toward the recording device. You must understand, we expected primitive rockets and chemical explosives. Instead, thousands of projectiles erupted from the planet's surface. Not missiles, kinetic impactors. Massive tungsten rods accelerated to near-light speed, using electromagnetic rails hidden across their continents. Our shields were designed to stop energy weapons and conventional projectiles. These impactors hit us like the fist of an angry god. They punched through our most advanced defensive systems as if they were paper. Ships that had survived the siege of Calora Prime were destroyed in milliseconds. Zektar's voice cracked with emotion. Admiral Vexthul screamed retreat orders, but it was too late. The humans had calculated the orbital mechanics perfectly. Every escape vector was covered by their hidden weapon systems. They had turned their entire solar system into a killing field. The second wave of their attack targeted our command ships specifically. Somehow they had identified our fleet hierarchy through passive scanning and targeted us with surgical precision. The Admiral's flagship, the pride of the Hegemony fleet, was cut in half by a single impactor. The commander struggled to continue, memories overwhelming him. But the most horrifying part was yet to come. As our surviving ships desperately tried to retreat, the humans launched their final surprise. Hundreds of small craft emerged from hidden bases on their moon and asteroid belt. These weren't the clumsy shuttles our scouts had observed. These were combat vessels unlike anything in galactic records. They moved with impossible agility, using reaction drives that shouldn't have been possible with their technology level. Each one carried weapons that could penetrate our armor. Zektar's breathing became shallow. The human pilots fought like nothing we had ever encountered. They used suicide tactics that would have been considered insane by any rational species. They rammed our ships when their weapons ran out of ammunition. They used their own vessels as guided missiles. In 6 hours, 2 million of the hegemony's finest soldiers were dead or captured. 12,000 ships reduced to floating debris, the greatest military disaster in galactic history, inflicted by a species we considered primitive. The recording device captured every word as Zektar prepared to reveal the most shocking truth of all. But the worst part, the part that still haunts my dreams, is what I learned from the human commander who interrogated me before my escape. His voice dropped to barely above a whisper. The weapons they used against us, the ones that destroyed our entire fleet, they considered them obsolete. Training weapons. They had been planning for this day since they first detected our scout ships months earlier. The humans had been preparing for war against an enemy they had never met, using weapons they had never tested, with a coordination that suggested military planning beyond anything in our experience. Zektar's remaining eyes closed as the weight of his revelation settled over him. We didn't fail because we underestimated their technology. We failed because we underestimated their nature. These humans don't just fight to survive. They fight to win. Zektar activated a new recording segment, his medical pod's systems working overtime to keep his damaged nervous system functional. The Galactic Council needed to hear everything, no matter how painful the memories became. The human interrogator called himself Colonel Martinez. He spoke our language perfectly, which should have been impossible. Our scouts reported that humans had no knowledge of galactic languages. Yet here was this soldier conversing in high hegemony dialect, as if he had studied it for years. The commander's voice carried a mixture of respect and terror. Martinez was not what our intelligence reports had led us to expect. He was calm, professional, almost gentle in his approach. He offered me medical treatment and explained that they had been monitoring our communications since our first scout probe entered their system. Zektar's remaining hand trembled as he recalled the conversation. That was when I learned the first impossible truth about humans. They had been preparing for us for months, but not because they feared us. They had been curious about our technology and wanted to study it up close. Martinez showed me recordings from their monitoring stations. Every transmission from our scout ships, every tactical discussion, every strategic planning session had been intercepted and decoded. The humans understood our battle tactics better than some of our own commanders. The medical readouts showed increasing stress levels as Zektar continued. But the most shocking revelation came when Martinez explained their defensive strategy. The weapons that destroyed our fleet had been constructed in just 4 months. 4 months to build a planetary defense system that neutralized the most powerful military force in the galaxy. He walked me through their thought process, with the casual tone of an academic discussing a research project. We needed to assume you were significantly more advanced than your scouts suggested, he explained. So we designed our response around the worst-case scenario. Zektar's laugh was hollow and bitter. Worst-case scenario. They had prepared for an enemy 10 times more powerful than we actually were. What destroyed us was their backup plan, something they had designed as a precaution. Martinez showed me technical specifications that made my military training seem primitive. The electromagnetic rail systems that launched their kinetic impactors were based on theoretical physics they had developed just decades earlier. They had taken untested science and turned it into operational weapons in months. The commander struggled with the implications. But it wasn't just their technology that frightened me. It was their mindset. Martinez explained that every human settlement, from their largest cities to their smallest outposts, had been prepared for invasion. Every civilian had been trained in resistance tactics. We don't really do surrender, Martinez told me. And I could see he meant it literally. Their entire species had mentally prepared for a fight to the death against an unknown enemy. Not just their military, but every individual human on the planet. Zektar's voice became strained as he recalled more details. The tactical briefings Martinez showed me revealed coordination between human governments that shouldn't have been possible. Their planet was divided into competing nations that had fought wars against each other for centuries. Yet when faced with external threat, they had unified overnight. Their unity wasn't just political, it was operational. Military forces that had been enemies weeks before were now coordinating complex defensive strategies. Scientists from competing nations were sharing classified research. It was as if the entire species had become a single organism focused on one goal. The medical pod registered critical stress levels as Zektar pushed through painful memories. Martinez explained their strategy with the same calm professionalism throughout. "We assumed you would target our military installations first," he said. "So we turned them into weapons. Every base you destroyed triggered massive underground explosions that created debris clouds in your flight paths. The debris wasn't random. Each explosion was precisely calculated to create obstacles at specific orbital positions. They had mapped our approach vectors and prepared the battlefield accordingly. We flew directly into carefully positioned kill zones." Zektar's breathing became labored. But the kinetic impactors were just the beginning. Martinez showed me footage of their secondary weapon systems, mass drivers hidden in asteroid mines, plasma cannon arrays concealed as communications equipment, and hunter-killer satellites disguised as space debris. Every piece of human infrastructure in their solar system had been weaponized. Cargo ships became missile platforms. Mining equipment became siege engines. Even their civilian communication networks had been repurposed for military coordination. The commander's voice dropped to a whisper. "Martinez told me something that still haunts my dreams. This isn't even our military at full capacity," he said. "Most of our forces are still planetside. What you encountered was just our space-based defenses." He explained that Earth maintained massive armies, naval fleets and air forces that hadn't even participated in the battle. Millions of soldiers with advanced weapons and vehicles, nuclear submarines capable of launching interplanetary missiles, strategic bombers equipped with weapons that could crack moons. Zektar struggled to continue as the implications overwhelmed him. The force that destroyed our entire invasion fleet represented less than 5% of human military capability. They had defeated us using what they considered minimal force. But Martinez wasn't finished with his revelations. He showed me their manufacturing capabilities. The weapons that destroyed us had been built using a fraction of their industrial capacity. Automated factories could produce thousands more kinetic impactors within weeks. Their entire civilization was designed for warfare, on a scale I had never imagined. Not aggressive conquest like the hegemony, but defensive warfare. They had prepared to fight enemies they had never met using tactics they had never tested. The medical pod's alarms began chiming as Zektar's condition deteriorated. Martinez offered me something no hegemony prisoner had ever received: a choice. I could remain on Earth as a researcher, helping them understand hegemony technology in exchange for asylum. Or I could be returned to space with a message for the Galactic Council. I chose to return because the Council needs to understand what we're dealing with. These humans aren't just another species to be conquered or avoided. They're something entirely different. Zektar's remaining eyes focused on the recording device with desperate intensity. Martinez's final words to me were a warning disguised as courtesy. "Please tell your people that Earth is now aware of the galactic community. We look forward to peaceful contact and mutual cooperation." But I could see the subtext in his expression. The humans were no longer content to remain isolated on their small planet. They were preparing to enter galactic politics, and they would do so on their own terms. The weapons they used against us were defensive systems hastily constructed for a single battle. Imagine what they could build with time, resources, and knowledge of galactic technology standards. Zektar's voice became urgent despite his failing strength. "The Council must understand this. We didn't just lose a military engagement. We encountered a species that approaches warfare with the same systematic precision they apply to science and engineering. Earth shattered our invasion fleet because they treated it like a problem to be solved rather than a battle to be won." Zektar paused the recording to allow his medical systems to stabilize his failing organs. When he resumed, his voice carried the weight of revelations that had shattered his understanding of galactic power structures. Colonel Martinez arranged for me to tour one of their manufacturing facilities before my departure. He claimed it would help me understand human capabilities, but I believe he wanted me to carry a specific message back to the hegemony. The commander's remaining hand gestured weakly as he recalled the experience. The facility was located deep underground, carved into solid rock beneath one of their mountain ranges. Martinez explained that most human industrial capacity was hidden from orbital observation, a precaution they had taken decades before they knew aliens existed. What I saw in that facility defied everything I understood about technological development. Automated production lines that could switch between manufacturing civilian goods and military hardware within hours. Robotic systems that assembled complex weapons with precision that exceeded hegemony standards. Zektar's voice became strained as he struggled with the implications. But the most disturbing aspect wasn't their technology, it was their efficiency. The humans had designed their entire industrial base around the concept of rapid militarization. Every factory could become a weapons plant. Every civilian facility had military applications. Martinez showed me production schedules that revealed the scope of their preparations. In the 4 months since detecting our scout probes, they had manufactured enough kinetic impactors to destroy a fleet 10 times larger than ours. And they hadn't even begun mass production. The medical pod registered critical stress levels as Zektar continued. Their manufacturing systems operated continuously, producing weapons and defensive systems around the clock. But Martinez explained this was just their emergency production schedule. In peacetime, these facilities produced consumer goods, research equipment, and infrastructure. The economic implications were staggering. The humans had built a civilization capable of switching from consumer production to military manufacturing without economic disruption. Their entire society was designed for this kind of rapid mobilization. Zektar's breathing became labored as he recalled more disturbing details. Martinez introduced me to their research teams, scientists who had developed the weapons that destroyed our fleet. They spoke of theoretical physics concepts that are best researchers considered impossible to implement. Practically, Dr. Sarah Chen explained their kinetic impactor technology with the casual confidence of someone discussing basic engineering principles. Electromagnetic acceleration is relatively straightforward, she told me. The challenging part was developing targeting systems accurate enough for orbital defense. The commander's voice cracked with emotion. These humans had solved targeting problems that had challenged our military engineers for centuries. Not through superior technology, but through innovative approaches our researchers had never considered. Dr. Chen showed me their testing data, records of weapon trials conducted in their outer solar system. They had been perfecting their defensive systems by firing test shots at asteroids and decommissioned spacecraft, practical experience with weapons that existed only in theory for most galactic civilizations. Zektar struggled to maintain composure as he continued. But the most shocking revelation came when Martinez explained their strategic doctrine. The humans didn't just prepare for invasion by our forces. They had developed contingency plans for threats they couldn't even identify. Their military planners had created response protocols for scenarios ranging from energy-based attacks to dimensional warfare, defensive strategies against weapons that didn't exist in their technology base. They had prepared for unknown threats using principles of adaptive response. The medical readouts showed increasing strain as Zektar pushed through painful memories. Martinez showed me classified documents detailing their analysis of potential extraterrestrial threats. For decades before our arrival, human researchers had been studying theoretical alien invasion scenarios. Their conclusions were terrifyingly accurate. They had predicted energy weapons, gravitational manipulation, and quantum shield technology based purely on theoretical physics. When our scout ships confirmed these predictions, they simply activated predetermined response protocols. Zektar's voice became urgent, despite his weakening condition. The humans had wargamed every possible first contact scenario, from peaceful cooperation to aggressive invasion. Our attack fell within parameters they had already analyzed and prepared for. Dr. Chen explained their research methodology with scientific detachment. We couldn't predict specific alien technologies, she said, but we could prepare adaptive responses to theoretical capabilities. Our defensive systems were designed to counter unknown weapons using known physics principles. The commander's remaining eyes closed as he recalled the implications. They had turned scientific speculation into operational military doctrine. Theoretical physics had become practical weapons engineering. Academic exercises had become planetary defense systems. Martinez arranged for me to observe their training facilities, underground complexes where human soldiers practiced against simulated alien threats. They had created realistic scenarios based on analysis of galactic military tactics, accurate enough that watching their exercises felt like observing hegemony battle drills. Zektar's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. Their soldiers trained against holographic enemies using weapons and tactics they had extrapolated from theoretical analysis. When our real forces arrived, they were fighting an enemy they had already defeated thousands of times in simulation. But the most disturbing aspect of their training was its scope. Not just military personnel, but civilian populations. Every human settlement maintained resistance training programs. Children learned to operate emergency defensive systems as part of their basic education. The medical pod's alarms began chiming as Zektar's condition deteriorated further. Martinez explained their civilian preparedness doctrine with the same calm professionalism. "We couldn't predict where an invasion might begin," he said. "So we prepared every population center for siege conditions. Every human city maintained hidden weapon caches, underground command centers, and emergency communication systems. Their entire civilian infrastructure was designed to function independently during military crises." Zektar struggled to continue as his strength failed. The tour concluded at their primary research facility, where teams of scientists were already analyzing wreckage from our destroyed ships. In the 3 days since the battle, they had reverse-engineered basic principles of our gravitational manipulation technology. Dr. Chen showed me their preliminary analysis with obvious excitement. "Your energy shield systems are quite elegant," she told me. "We should be able to develop similar technology within months, possibly improved versions within a year." The commander's voice became urgent with warning. They weren't just defeating us militarily. They were learning from us. Every weapon they captured, every piece of technology they recovered, was being studied and improved upon. Martinez's final revelation was delivered as a casual observation. "Your people have given us quite a gift," he said. "Direct access to proven galactic technology. This will accelerate our development programs considerably." Zektar's breathing became shallow as he prepared to reveal the most terrifying truth. The humans hadn't just prepared for invasion. They had prepared to benefit from it. Our attack had provided them with technology samples, tactical intelligence, and strategic information they could never have obtained through peaceful contact. We hadn't just failed to conquer Earth. We had inadvertently given them the tools to conquer us. Zektar's medical pod worked frantically to stabilize his deteriorating condition as he prepared to reveal the most shocking aspects of human strategic thinking. The Galactic Council needed to understand the true scope of what they were dealing with. Before my departure from Earth, Martinez arranged a meeting that would forever change my understanding of human nature. He introduced me to General Patricia Morrison, the architect of Earth's defensive strategy. What she revealed made our military doctrine seem primitive by comparison. The commander's voice carried a mixture of awe and terror. General Morrison was not what I expected from human military leadership. She appeared calm, almost grandmotherly, speaking with the gentle tone of an academic rather than a warrior. Yet she commanded the respect of soldiers who had just obliterated the galaxy's most powerful invasion force. Morrison explained that Earth's defense had been planned not just for months, but for decades. "We've been preparing for this possibility since we first achieved spaceflight," she told me. "Any species capable of interstellar travel would eventually find us. We needed to be ready." Zektar's remaining hand trembled as he recalled her words. The general walked me through humanity's strategic evolution, showing how they had developed their defensive doctrine through careful analysis of their own history. They had studied every invasion, every conquest, every military defeat in their species' past. "We learned from our failures," Morrison explained. "Every time humans were conquered or defeated, it was because we underestimated our enemies or failed to prepare adequately. We decided never to make those mistakes again." The medical readouts spiked as Zektar struggled with the implications. She showed me historical records spanning thousands of years, documenting how humans had refined their understanding of warfare through constant conflict. Their entire species had evolved through military pressure, becoming more adaptable and resourceful with each generation. But what truly frightened me was Morrison's explanation of human strategic patience. They hadn't just prepared defenses, they had prepared for the long-term consequences of first contact. Win or lose, they knew that engaging with galactic civilization would fundamentally change their species. Zektar's voice became strained as he continued. Morrison revealed that Earth's defensive victory was just the first phase of a much larger strategy. We needed to establish our credentials, she explained. No one takes primitives seriously in galactic politics. Now we have everyone's attention. She showed me intelligence reports that demonstrated how thoroughly humans had analyzed galactic power structures. Through careful observation of our scout transmissions, they had mapped the hegemony's territorial boundaries, identified key allies and enemies, and assessed our military capabilities. The commander's breathing became labored. But their intelligence gathering went far beyond military analysis. They had studied galactic economics, trade relationships, and political structures. They understood our civilization better than many species who had been part of it for centuries. Morrison explained their next strategic objective with the same calm professionalism she had shown throughout. Phase 2 involves establishing diplomatic relationships with your enemies, she said. We've identified several species that would benefit from human military assistance. Zektar's remaining eyes widened as he recalled the implications. The humans weren't planning to remain isolated on their planet. They intended to insert themselves into galactic politics by offering military services to the hegemony's opponents. They were going to turn our own enemies against us. General Morrison showed me detailed proposals they had prepared for potential allies, military assistance packages that included human tactical expertise, weapons technology, and strategic planning. They were preparing to export their approach to warfare. The medical pod registered critical stress levels as Zektar pushed through painful revelations. But the most disturbing aspect of their planning was its scope. Morrison revealed that humans had already identified which galactic species would be most compatible with their strategic doctrine. They were planning to create military alliances that would reshape the balance of power. Your attack confirmed several important assumptions, Morrison told me. Galactic military thinking is surprisingly conservative. Most species rely heavily on technological superiority rather than tactical innovation. This gives us significant advantages despite our limited resources. Zektar's voice cracked with emotion as he continued. She explained how humans intended to leverage their tactical flexibility against technologically superior opponents. Their entire strategic doctrine was based on defeating enemies who possess better weapons and equipment. Morrison showed me training videos where human soldiers practiced against simulated alien forces equipped with energy weapons, gravitational manipulation, and quantum shielding. Their tactics emphasized speed, adaptability, and exploiting weaknesses in conventional military thinking. The commander struggled to maintain composure. But what truly terrified me was Morrison's casual mention of their technological development timeline. We should have functional energy weapons within 6 months, she said. Gravitational manipulation will take longer, perhaps 2 years. They weren't just planning to reverse engineer our technology. They intended to improve upon it. Human research teams were already identifying weaknesses in our weapon designs and developing enhanced versions. Zektar's breathing became shallow as he recalled more details. Morrison explained their development philosophy with scientific detachment. We don't copy existing technology, she said. We study the underlying principles and develop better implementations. Innovation through understanding rather than imitation. She showed me preliminary designs for weapons that exceeded hegemony capabilities. Not just improvements on existing systems, but entirely new approaches to energy manipulation and defensive technology. The medical alarms began chiming as Zektar's condition deteriorated. General Morrison's final revelation was delivered as a simple statement of fact. Within 5 years, human forces will be technologically equivalent to any galactic military, she said. Within 10 years, we'll be superior. But she wasn't finished with her strategic timeline. Morrison explained that humans were already planning for conflicts that hadn't yet begun. They had identified potential threats and opportunities decades into the future. Zektar's voice became urgent despite his failing strength. The galaxy is about to experience significant political upheaval, Morrison told me. Old alliances will crumble and new power structures will emerge. We intend to be ready for those changes. She showed me projection models that analyzed how galactic civilization would respond to human emergence. Economic disruption, military realignment, technological acceleration. They had planned for every possible scenario. The commander's remaining eyes closed as he prepared to reveal the most terrifying truth. Morrison arranged for me to meet with human representatives who would be establishing diplomatic contact with galactic governments. Not military officers, but trained negotiators and strategic analysts. These diplomats spoke of trade agreements, mutual defense treaties, and technology-sharing arrangements. They had already drafted proposals for dozens of different species, customized based on detailed analysis of each civilization's needs and weaknesses. Zektar's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. The humans weren't just preparing for war, they were preparing for peace. A peace where they would hold significant influence over galactic affairs. General Morrison's final words to me were spoken like a promise. Your people gave us exactly what we needed to join the galactic community. Please thank them for their contribution to human development. We hadn't just failed to conquer Earth. We had accidentally created the galaxy's next superpower. Zektar's life support systems worked overtime as he prepared to reveal the final and most disturbing revelations from his time on Earth. His voice carried the weight of knowledge that would fundamentally alter the Galactic Council's understanding of human intentions. During my final day on Earth, Colonel Martinez arranged what he called a cultural exchange. I was introduced to human civilians, ordinary citizens who had supported their military's efforts. What I learned from these interactions was more frightening than any weapon demonstration. The commander's remaining hand gestured weakly as painful memories surfaced. These weren't soldiers or government officials. They were teachers, engineers, farmers, and merchants. Yet each one understood the strategic implications of their planet's military victory with sophisticated precision. Dr. Elena Vasquez, a university professor, explained human educational philosophy with casual confidence. We teach our children that knowledge is power, but applied knowledge is victory, she said. Every human learns basic strategic thinking as part of their general education. Zektar's voice became strained as he struggled with the implications. Their entire civilian population possessed strategic awareness that rivaled trained military analysts. These humans didn't just support their military, they understood its objectives and contributed to its planning. Dr. Vasquez showed me educational materials used in human schools, curricula that included tactical analysis, resource management, and strategic planning as basic subjects. Children learned to think like generals alongside mathematics and literature. The medical readouts spiked as Zektar recalled more disturbing details. But what truly shocked me was their economic mobilization. Martinez introduced me to industrialists who had converted their civilian factories to military production within days of detecting our scout ships. These business leaders spoke of production schedules and resource allocation with the efficiency of veteran quartermaster corps. They had reorganized their entire economy for warfare without government coercion. Their profit motives had aligned perfectly with military necessity. Zektar's breathing became labored as he continued. Robert Chen, who owned manufacturing facilities across several continents, explained their economic doctrine with capitalist enthusiasm. Military contracts are just another market opportunity, he said. We compete to produce the most effective weapons at the lowest cost. The humans had turned warfare into a business competition. Multiple companies competed to develop better defensive systems, more efficient weapons, and superior tactical equipment. Their entire industrial base had become a military research and development network. The commander's voice cracked with emotion. But the most disturbing revelation came from Dr. Maria Santos, a research scientist who had contributed to their kinetic impactor technology. She explained their scientific approach to warfare with academic detachment. We treat military problems like any other research challenge, Dr. Santos told me. Identify the constraints, develop theoretical solutions, test practical applications, and iterate toward optimal results. It's basic scientific methodology applied to strategic objectives. Zektar struggled to maintain composure as he recalled her words. She showed me research papers where human scientists had published theoretical studies on interstellar warfare decades before they knew aliens existed. Academic journals filled with strategic analysis disguised as speculative fiction. Their universities had been conducting military research under the pretense of entertainment and education. Science fiction writers had unknowingly developed tactical doctrines. Game designers had created strategic simulations. Entertainment had become military planning. The medical pod registered critical stress levels as Zektar pushed through increasingly painful memories. Dr. Santos explained how quickly their theoretical work had become practical application. When your scout ships confirmed the existence of galactic civilization, we simply activated research protocols that had been in development for generations. The weapons that destroyed our fleet weren't hastily constructed defenses. They were the culmination of decades of theoretical development, suddenly given practical urgency by our arrival. Zektar's voice became urgent despite his weakening condition, but Martinez saved the most significant revelation for last. He introduced me to Ambassador Catherine Wright, the diplomatic officer who would be establishing formal contact with galactic governments. Ambassador Wright possessed intelligence briefings that demonstrated complete understanding of galactic political structures, not just our military capabilities but our economic systems, cultural values, and strategic weaknesses. The commander's remaining eyes widened as he recalled their conversation. Wright explained human diplomatic strategy with the same systematic approach they applied to warfare. Successful negotiation requires understanding your counterpart's motivations, constraints, and objectives, she said. She showed me detailed profiles of every major galactic species, analysis that revealed psychological and cultural factors that influenced their decision-making. The humans understood our civilizations better than we understood ourselves. Zektar's breathing became shallow as he continued. Wright revealed that Earth had already prepared diplomatic proposals for dozens of different scenarios. Trade agreements, mutual defense treaties, technology sharing arrangements, and cultural exchange programs. But their diplomatic objectives went far beyond simple cooperation. Wright explained their long-term vision for galactic civilization with strategic clarity that took my breath away. The medical alarms began chiming as Zektar's condition deteriorated further. The humans weren't planning to join existing galactic institutions. They intended to transform them. Wright showed me proposals for new international organizations, economic systems, and conflict resolution mechanisms. Current galactic governance relies heavily on military intimidation and economic coercion, Wright explained. These approaches create inherent instability. We propose more sustainable alternatives based on mutual benefit and shared objectives. Zektar's voice became barely audible as his strength failed. She revealed that humans had analyzed the fundamental weaknesses in galactic civilization. Ancient species locked into traditional thinking patterns, economic systems that favored established powers over innovation, military doctrines that relied on technological superiority rather than tactical excellence. Wright explained their plan to exploit these weaknesses through careful alliance building and strategic patience. They would gradually establish themselves as essential partners for any species seeking military protection, technological advancement, or economic opportunity. The commander struggled to continue as his medical systems worked frantically, but the most terrifying aspect of their diplomatic strategy was its scope. Wright showed me timeline projections that extended centuries into the future. The humans weren't planning for immediate galactic integration. They were planning for eventual galactic leadership. Their diplomatic strategy was designed to position Earth as the indispensable mediator in future conflicts. Zektar's voice dropped to a whisper as he revealed the final truth. Wright explained their ultimate objective with calm certainty. Within 50 years, no major galactic decision will be made without human consultation, she said. Within a century, human institutions will be central to galactic governance. They had studied the rise and fall of galactic empires throughout history. Every dominant civilization had eventually collapsed due to internal contradictions or external pressures. The humans intended to avoid these failures by building sustainable influence rather than direct control. The medical pod's readings reached critical levels as Zektar prepared his final revelation. Ambassador Wright's last words to me were spoken as a simple statement of historical inevitability. Your invasion marked the end of the old galactic order, she said. What comes next will be better for everyone, including your people. She showed me provisional plans for hegemony reconstruction after their inevitable political collapse. Economic assistance, technological development, and social reform programs. The humans were already planning to help rebuild the civilization they had just defeated. Zektar's remaining eyes closed as exhaustion overwhelmed him. Before my departure, Wright handed me sealed diplomatic communications addressed to the Galactic Council. formal proposals for establishing peaceful relations, complete with detailed terms and conditions. But I could see the subtext in her expression. These weren't requests for permission to join galactic society. They were notifications of intent to reshape it. The humans had given me these revelations deliberately. They wanted the Council to understand exactly what they were dealing with. Not just a new military power, but a civilization that approached every challenge with systematic precision and long-term planning. Zektar's voice became barely audible as his strength finally failed. The galaxy is about to change in ways that none of us can prevent. Earth didn't just shatter our invasion fleet. They shattered the existing order of galactic civilization. And they did it all while treating us with respect and dignity that we had never shown to any conquered species. Even in victory, they demonstrated superiority that went far beyond military capability. The Council must understand this final truth. We didn't just encounter a primitive species that got lucky. We encountered the galaxy's future rulers, and they treated our defeat as a regrettable necessity rather than a triumph. The recording device captured Zektar's final words before his medical systems triggered emergency protocols. Tell the Council that resistance is futile, not because humans are invincible, but because their vision for galactic civilization is genuinely superior to anything that exists today. We lost the moment we decided to invade Earth. We just didn't realize it until it was too late. The recording device activated automatically as Zektar's medical pod detected renewed vital signs. His emergency treatment had stabilized his condition enough for one final testimony, though his voice carried the weakness of approaching death. The Council must understand what happened after my testimony was transmitted to Hegemony High Command. Within hours of receiving my report, our leadership made the most catastrophic decision in our species' history. Zektar's remaining hand trembled as he struggled to continue. Admiral Kreshevan, the new fleet commander, declared my account to be impossible. He convinced the War Council that humans had used some form of psychological manipulation to corrupt my memories. They decided to launch a second invasion. The medical readout showed extreme stress as painful memories surfaced. 12,000 additional ships were assembled, twice the size of our original force. Elite units from across the hegemony's core worlds, our most advanced weapons and our most experienced commanders. I tried to warn them through official channels, but my testimony was classified as psychological warfare rather than intelligence reporting. The medical board declared me mentally compromised by human interrogation techniques. Zektar's voice became strained as he recalled the disaster that followed. The second invasion lasted 18 minutes. The humans had spent 3 months since our first encounter, upgrading their defensive systems with technology reverse-engineered from our own ships. Our new fleet arrived to find Earth protected by energy, shields based on our own gravitational manipulation technology, but improved beyond our engineering capabilities. Human scientists had identified weaknesses in our designs and eliminated them. The commander's breathing became labored as he continued. The weapons that destroyed our second fleet weren't kinetic impactors. The humans had developed functional energy weapons that exceeded our most advanced systems. They had learned from our technology and surpassed it in months. But the most shocking aspect of the second battle was its brevity. The humans didn't engage in prolonged combat. They simply disabled our ship's propulsion systems and demanded surrender, complete victory achieved through precise application of overwhelming force. Zektar's voice cracked with emotion as he revealed the ultimate humiliation. Our surviving commanders were treated with the same courtesy I had experienced, but their interrogation revealed something that shattered hegemony. Strategic doctrine forever. The humans explained that they had monitored our preparations for the second invasion through intelligence networks established throughout hegemony space. Every strategic decision, every tactical plan, every fleet movement had been observed and analyzed. The medical pod registered critical stress levels as Zektar pushed through increasingly painful memories. Human intelligence operatives had infiltrated our communication networks within weeks of first contact. Not through advanced technology, but through simple social engineering and careful observation. They had recruited assets among species oppressed by hegemony rule, offering military protection and technological assistance in exchange for information. Our own subjects had become willing collaborators. Zektar's remaining eyes closed as he recalled the scope of human intelligence operations. Within 3 months, human agents had established contact with every major resistance movement in hegemony territory. They had mapped our entire political structure and identified key vulnerabilities. But they hadn't used this information to launch preemptive strikes or coordinate rebellions. Instead, they had prepared detailed reconstruction plans for post-war galactic civilization. The commander's voice became barely audible as his strength failed again. The humans had planned for our defeat from the moment of first contact, not just military victory, but complete political transformation of galactic society. They offered surviving hegemony commanders positions in a new galactic peacekeeping organization, not as conquered subjects, but as equal partners in maintaining interstellar stability. Sektar struggled to continue as medical alarms chimed softly. Admiral Kreshovan accepted their offer immediately. Our entire command structure surrendered not to superior force, but to superior vision. The humans offered them something the hegemony never could: purpose beyond conquest. Within days, former hegemony officers were working alongside human strategists to develop plans for peaceful conflict resolution throughout galactic civilization. Our enemies had become our partners through careful demonstration of mutual benefit. The medical pod's readings reached critical levels as Sektar prepared his final revelation. The most terrifying aspect of human victory was its completeness. They hadn't just defeated our military forces. They had converted our entire civilization to their strategic philosophy. Former hegemony worlds were requesting human assistance with economic development, technological advancement, and social reform. Species that had feared our military might were embracing human leadership because it offered genuine improvement to their lives. Sektar's voice dropped to a whisper as exhaustion overwhelmed him. I received communications from Hegemony High Command 3 weeks ago. Our government has formally requested admission to the Human Commonwealth, a new galactic organization that emerged from the ruins of our empire. The humans had achieved in months what the hegemony had failed to accomplish in centuries: voluntary cooperation from hundreds of different species, not through intimidation or conquest, but through demonstrated competence and mutual respect. The commander's breathing became shallow as he approached his final words. The council must understand that this was never about military conflict. The humans treated our invasion as a diplomatic opportunity rather than an act of war. They used our aggression to demonstrate their capabilities, then leveraged our defeat to establish their legitimacy as galactic leaders. Every aspect of our interaction had been calculated to achieve this outcome. Sektar's remaining eyes opened for the last time as he delivered his ultimate warning. The old galactic order is finished. The humans didn't destroy it through conquest or rebellion. They simply offered a better alternative and let civilization choose. Species across the galaxy are abandoning traditional power structures and joining human-led institutions because these organizations deliver superior results: economic prosperity, technological advancement, peaceful conflict resolution, and individual freedom. The medical readings flatlined momentarily before emergency systems restored minimal life support. The humans achieved galactic dominance without firing a shot in anger. They turned every challenge into an opportunity, every enemy into an ally, every defeat into a victory. They didn't conquer the galaxy, they saved it from itself. Sektar's voice became barely perceptible as his life force ebbed away. My final testimony to the Galactic Council: surrender immediately and request admission to the Human Commonwealth. Not because resistance is impossible, but because cooperation offers everything our species has ever wanted. The humans will accept our surrender with dignity and offer us partnership with respect. They will help us build something better than anything we ever achieved through conquest. The recording device captured Sektar's last words as his medical systems finally failed. Earth didn't just shatter our invasion fleet. They shattered the cycle of galactic warfare and replaced it with genuine civilization. The age of human leadership has begun, and it offers hope for every species willing to embrace cooperation over conquest. The commander's final breath was recorded as his testimony ended, leaving behind the most comprehensive account of humanity's emergence as the galaxy's newest and most benevolent superpower.